All right, so today we're going to be talking about Steve Sarkisian and his remarks that raised some eyebrows within the media section of things, I guess, in regards to what Moro Ojomo had to say about the current state of the team, or just at least a lot of the players on his side of the football, which of course is the defensive side of the ball, back on April 7th. That video will actually be posted right here. I'll have that for you guys. You'll see some clips of that, and I'll also have it posted in the description. Also, too, if you're new, I, of course, am Lando. You can check out, I got like a 30-second video, just kind of explains a little bit more about me and who I am and what I do. It needs to be updated, obviously, because my wife and I welcomed our baby girl to the world about 4 weeks ago, yesterday. So that's been fun, just becoming a father and learning on the fly. There's never a dull moment. So, but I still, I love doing this too. So that's why I'm here. But if you do like the content, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, as it really helps me out, helps this channel grow. But now back to the reason why you guys are actually here, and the Steve Sarkisian remarks in response to Moro Ojomo.
The form was really poor. He should not have done that in public. A player-led team, a really good player-led team, those issues, and if you have issues with anything, get taken care of in the locker room, get taken care of in the meeting room. If you're really a family, you don't go out and talk about family business. You take care of things internally.
Off top, I actually have no qualms with what Moro Ojomo said. I actually like a lot of what he said.
7-6 BS Texas isn't happening no more. Mm-hmm. We have the ability, we have the talent. Get your mind right. We're going to go win.
And again, it's different, right? When we, as fans, we love to see the players kind of peel back the curtain a little bit and just speak candidly about the current state of the program, right? We get so used to the coach speak, the quote unquote coach speak, right? Of, do our job and take care of what we can control. And, you guys know how that goes. So as fans, and even as members of the media, right? It's like certain media members, we love that. We love Moro Ojomo talking about what players do well and what players don't do so well.
Alfred and Vernon are starting to come along. They're starting to develop and being a lot more technical and applying things that Coach Davis goes over in practice and like actually doing it. It's been nice to see.
What do you think about Justice Finkley so far?
He's a young buck, powerful. I mean, really powerful for a young guy. He's gonna have to get in his playbook a lot more and just kind of know what's going on. But he can help us. He's gonna help us.
And in the case for Moro, I think all this is just a frustrated senior who wants better not only for himself but expects better for everybody else around him. And so, like, my favorite thing he actually said, and he referenced the Georgia Bulldogs and how they've got 5 guys right now in the top 50 on most draft boards, as far as 5 players on the defensive side of the ball, all more than likely going to be taken inside the top 50 picks, which is kind of unheard of, right? It's pretty remarkable. But the point is that Moro understands, and we'll talk about how he's kind of wired a little bit differently too. You can kind of get a feel for that if you watch the full video of his interview on April 7th. But Moro, he understands that, and I'll just use this metaphor as an example, right? As the tide rises, all the boats in the water rise as a result of that.
I think Georgia has maybe 5 defensive people in the top 50, like prospects. You get your team right, we're all getting drafted.
And that was true for the Georgia Bulldogs, has been true for the Alabama Crimson Tide, right? Those two teams, and even LSU, he referenced in 2019, they're different. And so Moro, to me, is just kind of speaking from a frustrated senior's perspective, and all he does is want more. He wants better. He expects more, not only from himself, but from everyone else around him. And so player accountability is the best form of accountability. And again, this is speaking from a person who, I played Division I baseball. I was lucky enough to have that experience, and I learned a lot from those experiences. And so I feel like I can speak from just having that, going through that myself. I understand, like, you hear coaches say all the time, or I don't know, it gets tossed around there rather frequently, that the strength and conditioning coach spends more time with football players than any other coach or person on the staff. And while that is true, the person who spends more time with the players than even the strength and conditioning coaches do is the other players themselves, right? So when you're around your teammates, when the lights are off and there's no microphone in front of you and there's no camera on you, how do you handle yourself? What is your character like when, getting extra work in on the field when you're not required to be there, or on his staff, like they're not looking at you? How do you conduct yourself in those instances? And so I think that's kind of what Moro Ojomo is saying, right? He is just trying to raise the level of expectation from everyone around him, and it starts with the players, right? And so that was kind of like his number one message. Now, Steve Sarkisian, the problem that he had with that was, he said in his mind, there's a time and a place to do those things and to call your teammates out, per se, right? For lack of a better term. And I also agree with that, right? Maybe there's Coach Sark's thought process was, if you got something to say, I want you to say it. Just do it behind closed doors in the locker room. Handle it man to man there, right? Just go talk to Justice Finkley. Go talk to Alfred Collins. Go talk to Vernon Broughton. Go talk to Baron Sorrell. Those are all names that he mentioned in his interview, right? And he had great things to say. Again, he comes from a place of he meant well by everything he was saying. And I actually respected, again, a lot of what he said. Now, earlier I mentioned that I would talk about the way that he thinks. He actually also had another interesting comment about the NIL, and he kind of thinks it's silly, right? That's paraphrasing, but in his mind, he thinks the NIL right now is silly. He said that he wants to be able to not market himself for monetary value, but market his mind to show the world that football players, they're more than just athletes in many cases, right? And so he wants to take pride in that. He says he wants to use the NIL to showcase his business mind, right? When I think I respect that. It's very respectable.
But I think that I want to show the larger public, the UT public, that like my brains, and a football player can like speak this way and go about things this way and be well versed in the business, be well versed in having communication and talks. But that's not what NIL is right now. NIL is it's very silly.
And so I think he sees things, going through everything he's gone through with multiple different, not only coaching staffs, but strength and conditioning coaches as well, from Yancey to Torre, Becton. To me, Moro is he's frustrated, right? And so he is starting to maybe take that step as a senior and maybe hold himself a little bit account. Because, okay, so here's another thing too. When you call somebody out like that, I want this to be heard as well. When you're calling your teammates out, you better make damn sure that you're taking care of your business as well. Because otherwise you're just a cancer, right? If you are the guy who's doing all the finger pointing, when you point your finger in one direction, you got three more pointing back at you, right? So take care of your stuff first, and that's exactly what Steve Sarkisian said too. It's just food for thought, right? Moro was making these statements about his teammates, what they do really well, what they need to improve on, right? How they can collectively get better as a unit as the tide rises, all the boats do in it as well. Steve Sarkisian said, you better make sure your lawn is mowed before you start trying to mow everybody else's lawn, right? So he's holding Moro accountable too. He's saying, look, man, time and a place for what you said. I don't necessarily agree with where you said it. I like a lot of what you said, but you better make damn sure that you're taking care of your shit too.
You have to make sure to mow your own lawn first, and you got to make sure your own house is in order first before you start to discuss what somebody else is doing or how they're doing it.
But that's the message from Steve Sarkisian. So again, player accountability is key. Players spend more time with players than anybody else. No coach, no media member, no parent, no teacher. Nobody is spending more time with these guys than the players themselves, right? They all are responsible for their own upbringing, right? The complacency is a number one killer for teams that are talented enough to make things happen and to change the culture, right? Steve Sarkisian can only do so much of preaching and instilling championship culture. It at some level, when Steve Sarkisian has to go home to his family, Torrey Becton has to go home to his family, Jeff Banks has to go home to his family, right? Bo Davis has to go home to his family. He can't babysit 24/7. There's only so much that these guys can do when they're on campus and at the facilities on a day-to-day basis, right? So hold yourself accountable, but also be in a position to speak and to lead by example and not just by your words, right? Lead with action. So I'm hoping that's the case with Moro Ojomo. I can't speak to that for certain because I'm not there. I'm not inside the facility. But if I'm trusting what he's saying as far as him holding himself accountable and putting himself in a position of leadership and going out on that limb, right? Getting away from the coach speak, being honest with us and with the media, then I would expect for him to do the same thing for himself, right? And I firmly believe that's possible. That's capable. He's capable of doing that as a senior, right? So I'm totally okay with it. I love the player accountability. Again, I see where Steve Sarkisian could be frustrated by that. Coach Marion, I had a tweet yesterday acknowledging the way that Coach Marion teaches. And again, this is leading by example. He has a great way, and we're already seeing this because he's very active on social media. So he's peeling back the curtain a little bit too. We see the relationship between Coach Marion and his receivers. But Jordan Whittington caught that touchdown pass, right? And he didn't take the football directly to the ref before he started to celebrate. And so that was one of the things that's like one of the pillars of Coach Marion's way of teaching. That along with how do you play without the ball? How you play without the ball determines how much you love your teammates. These are things that are changing the way these players think. What's really important? Are you celebrating in the end zone after you score to say, hey, look at me? Or are you taking the football to the ref and then going and finding your teammates and then celebrating, right? So point is, Coach Marion has a great way of holding his players accountable while also still praising him in the process. The tweet was something along the lines of, great play, Jay Witt. Just, don't forget, take the ball to the ref first and then go celebrate. Then do your thing, right? So it's bigger than just yourself. I think that's kind of what the moral of this whole video is, and what we're learning from it. Again, a learning experience. This is a good thing. Steve Sarkisian takes all of his players and calls up a team meeting. I'm just imagining how it went, right? He's like, look, Moro, stand up right now in the team meeting room. Moro stands up and he's like, look, do we agree with a lot of what you said? Absolutely. Is there a time and a place to say the things that you needed to say? Also, absolutely. All right, Moro, sit back down. Thank you for your words. Use that to fuel you. Let that be a learning example for everyone else around you. Everybody learn from what Moro said. Just, be mindful of that, right? Because the media is going to take all this stuff and somehow it's going to get spun. And they're going to say, oh, shit, look at the dysfunction at the University of Texas again. Steve Sarkisian can't keep his players under control. We know how this stuff works, man. But at the end of the day, winning solves everything. This comes from a place of frustration. He mentioned being 7-6, right? Unacceptable for a team with this talent. And we're seeing the buy-in already. The buy-in is happening behind closed doors. Ryan Watts, Quinn Ewers, you name it, right? It's starting to change, right? So the players, they just have to hold themselves accountable. And I think that's a good sign, seeing Moro being willing to kind of put himself out there a little bit and say, look, man, enough is enough. It's on us now.
7-6 BS Texas isn't happening no more. Mm-hmm. We have the ability, we have the talent. Get your mind right. We're going to go win.
So I hope I didn't ramble too much there. It's a 13 minutes long video, but yeah, if you've made it this far, I think that's all I got to say. I'm sure I'm going to forget something as I rewatch this, but for now, that's it. Thank you guys for listening. I'll talk to you soon.